Happy 201st podcast anniversary, buddy.
Yes, the countdown to 300 begins today.
Right now.
Yeah, right now the countdown begins. We can, I've set up my Garmin. It's got the countdown tracker on there it's all it's about. And to change my wallpaper on my phone and my everything, it's countdown to podcast 300 of the Crushing Iron Triathlon podcast, coming to you every Monday and Thursday, twice a week for what is about to be 2 years. And like you said, episode 201, and today is September 24th, 8:36 a.m. Central Standard Time. Race week for a lot of people, and race week was last week for a lot of people with Atlantic City 70.3, Augusta 70.3, races all over, races coming up. It is the end of season chaos is upon us.
Yeah, were you chaotic yesterday?
Wasn't chaotic yesterday. Not really. I'm definitely used to it. Had I think 5 at Atlantic City, 5 at Augusta, another one at Redman 70.3, an Olympic, a half marathon the day before, and yeah, trying to juggle, weekend family time. And yesterday was a little bit easier because I don't know about the rest of the United States, but apparently we live in Seattle now. It has been raining, and it looks like it's going to rain for like the next 3 days. We've gone like a month with like zero rain, and so we're just stuck in the house yesterday. But speaking of conditions and rain, it looked like it rained for the majority of the day on folks at Atlantic City 70.3, and the exact opposite at Augusta, where it looked like it was a scorcher.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
A scorcher. So it's interesting, and I did notice as well that I'm sure other people could confirm or deny this, but it did look to me that the flow there is usually cracking. I mean, it is. That's why people choose that race.
Yeah.
A lot of people choose that race because of the aided swim in the time of year, and it looked to me like it was not moving near as quickly as it has before, which I think took some people by surprise. I think it was a lot tougher of a course than people had originally thought of.
Yeah, when it gets hot. But was it wetsuit legal?
I don't think it was.
See, that's normally the thing there too, right?
No, I'm sure there were still people wearing their wetsuits.
I know there was, but I always thought that it was kind of like wetsuit legal. I mean, it seems like it's getting hotter later down here or something. Like Chattanooga started out non-wetsuit, it started out wetsuit, and maybe it didn't. I don't know. It wasn't as hot. It started. Now it seems like every.
Definitely not. That's that whole global warming thing, but it's.
I didn't want to go there, but.
Yeah, I know you didn't.
We're not political.
We are, but we just we ninja sneak it in where other people are dramatic and incessant about it. But no, I think it was a lot. But I mean, in those downstream swims, big deal. Like.
I told you, though. I mean, I think that it's a weird element because I think a lot of times people go into, like me, I've done that before, where you go into it and you're like, downstream, big deal. You don't really train for it. You don't train for it as hard, and then all of a sudden, for some reason on that day, they have the current down or it's not as fast, and then you kind of get a little wake-up call.
Yeah, you do get a little bit of a wake-up call, but it was a tough end.
Don't underestimate the swim. That's my point.
Well, we've made that. I'm sure we've lost listeners because we dwell on this. We focus on the swim so much, and most people just don't want to hear. But yeah, don't sleep on the swim. I always say, I wonder if it was set up as run, bike, swim. If people would treat the swim as such a joke. But yeah, you never know. And the biggest thing you don't know about swim is not just fitness-wise, but how are you mentally are going to prepare for the swim. And I had a interesting conversation at work. Every so often I'll work with an athlete via the phone and just kind of do I don't say like coaching consultation sessions, but certain athletes will schedule and block out, and they don't want like regular training and coaching, like training plans. They just want strictly like, yeah, it's I think it is coaching, but a lot of it is psychology, and like how you approach race things and just like thinking and talking through things. And I talked with an athlete on Thursday who was doing an event this weekend and who had always had a really difficult time pre-swim and has some other things going on. And so we talked about that for a little over 30 minutes on Thursday. And luckily she texted me after the race and talked about what of a good experience she had during the swim, and there was just a change in mindset. And that I think that, that's another thing that I think that it's just helpful, is that the mindset that you go into with the race. And listen, like I firmly believe that when you come to a stage of burnout, or just not just burnout, but emotional and mental just frustration where you want to give in, so much of it is where your mindset is, and how you approach things and your perspective. And if you always have the hashtag beat yesterday mentality, then you're probably not going to last very long.
Have you seen that lion picture with the beast mode?
Christ's sake. Can you just read it out loud? Because I find it absolutely hilarious. So Allie and I were talking about it.
I sent that to
the other day. Did you send it to Allie?
No, I just sent it to you, but I know you're like, what the hell is that?
Read it out loud, because I find it just absolutely hysterical.
Let me see if I can still find that thing.
Oh, I can pull it up, I'm pretty sure.
Did I save it? Here it is.
Yep. So read it. So it's a picture of a lion.
Yeah.
And Mike sends this to me.
You're like, what the WTF is that?
A close-up picture of a lion with this phrase. Go ahead and read it.
It says, everyone wants to be a beast until it's time to do what real beasts do.
In their outfit, wearing an alien helmet, spandex, weighing about 130 pounds, looking like hell. Yep, we are beasts. Give me a break. Stuff like that, I just find, I just find it's hysterical. But yeah, if that's your perspective, hey, more power to your hashtag. Hashtag beast mode. Hashtag do epic shit every day. Hashtag beat yesterday.
I mean, in reality, it's more like Bobby Fischer sitting at a chess table and just keeping a steady mind and not getting wavered. You know what I mean? It's kind of more like that.
Well, I think that honestly, like, and I was also thinking about this the other day, is because when I scroll through, our Instagram feed is for the podcast and coaching and stuff, and so a lot of people that follow us or that we follow, are triathletes. And I remember last week I was like, I think why it annoys me so much, besides like the obvious, it's like, especially, the guys do this too, but especially like some of the women. I'm like, I don't have a single athlete that I know of that walks onto the pool deck in a bikini, with it ready to pose for a selfie, with her butt cheeks hanging out the side with a thong, and they say it's about triathlon. No, it's not. Or I crushed every day. Most time, what I read, and that's why it annoys me, because I read these Training Peaks comments of the athletes that I am fortunate enough to work with, and every so often, they have like a spectacular run and they feel like $1 million, but they're not doing it in like their debutante diva outfit. They probably got up at like 3 o'clock in the morning while their kids were asleep, or they got it in after making dinner for their kids and put them to bed and went down and hopped on the treadmill in a silent garage, or hopping on the treadmill or on the bike trainer when nobody's looking, or they had to get off and do something early because the kids were sick. Like that's what I read. I read reality. And so that's when I see like so much of this BS that is like social media and what people post, like that's just, it's not real. And I think it's frustrating to some people, and it's put off to me. But I think that's why it's so frustrating to me sometimes when I know that what reality is how hard these athletes work day in and day out just to find time to do it in, and then to find time. And I do have to say, and I'm sure there are a lot of people that have this approach, and I think anybody that has this approach should get an extra pat on the back. But I really love working with athletes who have a really great perspective, and I do honestly believe that a coach's responsibility is to, if they don't have a great or a specific perspective when you start working with them, is to help not just mold them athletically to get better and increase fitness and reach better times or whatever, but it's also to help them gain a different perspective on training and the approach to training and the process, but then also where it fits and the importance and like the hierarchy of where your life is. And for the majority of athletes I work with, and I honestly believe this, they have a great perspective on how training fits in with their life. And so I truly believe that when they do these, because I read it, that they are doing this to minimize the risk, or to minimize the impact that it has on their kids and their family. So they're not just blatantly leaving in the middle of the day if they don't have to just leave their family and go train. Like, I have a lot of them that will get up at 3 a.m. on a Saturday.
That's pretty early.
Yeah, I mean, that's your bedtime. And ride the trainer for 3 hours hard, and then get out on the road and bike for 2 hours so they can be home and have all day with their family. Like that, those are the sacrifices and things that I see, and that's what I love so much. In that, hey, or I didn't do this today because the kids are home and I felt like going and taking them to a movie. Like, thank you. You get bonus points. You don't get like negative points. And I just think that also helps their burnout, or their ability to burn out. It's just that perspective, and it's just I think you named our last episode 200 is just show up, and keep coming, and just keep showing up, and think good things will happen. But you're not going to keep showing up if you get too negative on yourself, you don't see a good return on your investment. But the biggest part of the return on investment is that if I feel like what I'm risking is so great and so impactful and felt by so many other people, that the pressure just keeps going up. Mm-hmm. Which is totally different from a person who tries to train around their family and their commitments versus the person who doesn't care and tries to fit it all in at all costs, and just they'll just have to deal with it.
Yeah.
You got to imagine, and I have to believe that the pressure that those two individuals feels on when they go into a specific race or continuing to do these year in and year out is so much greater versus the other one.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and look, this whole idea of like beast mode and everything, I don't want to like completely, because it's whatever works for you, but I think like what you just said there makes a lot of sense from the point of view that if you kind of put yourself into this idea in this box that you got to get into beast mode or something like that, that's a lot of pressure, whatever the heck that means. It's like, that means, to me, I think that's just ripping through walls and like tearing down, whatever's in your way. For me, I just think it's like, if you talk about perspective, it really is like, these races are super long, and it's very rare that you see somebody like in that mode. But it's more, to me, when I hear that, I guess the point that I like to make is that it's not this beast thing. It's more just like being focused and being in the moment and being able to like calculate and just get through certain things. I was talking to one of the guys, Peter, that raced Atlantic City yesterday, and he was talking about how many times he wanted to stop on the a run, but he said he kept hearing me talk about don't walk, or whatever, and that was really cool to hear that. And it's just like you have hundreds. That's going to come across your mind hundreds of times on race day. The hundreds of little decisions you're going to have to make, and the one is just like sometimes it's just as simple as stepping over the next hurdle. You know, it's not beast mode. It's just making a decision to keep going, and like you said, keep showing up and just move it forward. And I think this, like if you think, you know, like especially if you're going into a race and, you know, a 12, 13, 14-hour day at Ironman and you're, you know, trying to get jacked up and ready to rip through anything in front of you, that can really throw you off your game, you know? I think it's more like just meditation mode than beast mode, you know what I mean? A lot of times it's sort of this, let's not get overhyped, you know? And I mean, maybe you want to get in beast mode the last mile or two or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like
when was the last time you were in beast mode?
Well, this morning when I was on the phone with AT&T, I was trying to get them to change some stuff. But anyway, hey, let me just because I don't want to get too far in. I want to make a couple of quick announcements here.
Beast mode.
Beast mode announcements.
Yeah, we're
look. We've put a new store onto our website, crushingiron.com. If you're going to be at Louisville and you're a friend of the podcast, fan of the podcast, we have a new spectator shirt on there, and it's kind of our beast mode shirt. It says "Hurry slowly."
With an armadillo on it.
Yeah, with an armadillo on it. We have the sloth logo.
That's right. We have this.
But anyway, that's it's a gold shirt. It pops out. We want to see a lot of people wearing that at Louisville, and it helps support the podcast. And we really thank you for that. And we got a lot of good feedback and response to our 200th episode. So thank you so much for that. Also, there's a way to support the podcast on Patreon. If you go on to patreon.com/crushingiron, you can see those simple little options that throw a few bucks our way each month. If that is something that you would like to do, we really appreciate it because, you know, it takes a little time and there's some costs involved with storage and all kinds of different things. So that would be awesome. And then also I'm on. This is Mike, by the way, and you're listening to Coach Robbie on the other side. And I'm doing Road to Louisville updates on YouTube, the Crushing Iron YouTube page. And it's just sort of a 10 to 15 minute kind of what's going on in my mind that day as I get closer to the race. And you can kind of come in there and answer questions. It's live, so subscribe to Crushing Iron on YouTube, and you'll get a notice when I go live. And then you can come on in there. We're having a lot of good fun.
We do have a lot of good fun. We go on beast mode at least twice a week.
Mm-hmm. So...
You have a topic for today, or are you going to make me carry the load?
Oh, no, I totally have a topic, but it's based on one of your posts.
Oh, great. Here we go.
Well, I thought it was a good one, you know. I always think you make good posts.
Every once in a while.
Yeah.
My wife doesn't, but it's
She doesn't?
Well, I mean, she's always used to my dad jokes, but no, she thinks my other stuff is good. She just hates. Well, she hates when I make a dad joke and it's funny, and she like has to refrain from laughing. I made it. Well, I didn't make a dad joke, but I made a really good joke last night at the dinner table, but I can't share it.
Oh boy.
Yeah, well, it was just she and I and hate it, and it wasn't like it was one of those like three guys walk into a bar jokes. I just made a funny joke.
I have a quick question for you before we get into the topic of the day. You know, I changed out my tires yesterday, and
well, you changed out your tires, or somebody else did?
No, I did.
Okay, on your car or on the bike?
On the bike.
Okay, that's where my confusion was.
I can do either, by the way, if on a level ground.
Okay.
But you know, I wanted to do it and change them out, and I also, got some new CO2, and I just filled one of the tires up with CO2 just to kind of remember the process and things like that. My question is CO2 a good thing to have in your tires, or should I just get rid of that now? And you know what I mean?
Is air supposed to be good in your tires?
Well, yeah, I didn't, because the CO2, I didn't know if the cartridges was sort of a different sort of temporary thing.
I think it's meant to be temporary, but I think you should always use the pump to pump it up to your desired PSI.
Correct, but I mean, so I don't need to just drain it out, or?
I would not. I mean, you're still got a good ways to go before race day, so I would just. I mean, it might be a good.
I didn't know if it was bad for the tubes or something.
No, it's not bad. No, it's not bad for the tubes, but you might. I would leave it in there, and you could kind of do your own little test and see how long it holds.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Or if it deteriorates any faster than, pumping up with a regular tire pump.
Okay. Yeah, because it comes out all cold and everything. I just didn't know. It was sort of like one of those, how you fill your car tires with that crap, emergency crap,
that foam or
yeah.
You want to get that out. You don't want any foam in there.
I'll tell you what, those guys at the tire shop, they love that stuff.
Oh, I know they do.
So before we get into the topic, no, I had a long run yesterday. I just wanted to make a confession real quick, if I could.
Floor is yours.
Okay. Listen, it was the longest run of the year for me, and it will be the longest run until October 14th, which I like to just, reiterate this sometimes because I feel very comfortable going into that marathon right now with a long run of 15 miles, which was yesterday, which went well. And I got to tell you, it was one of those drizzly days that
I know.
Hard to get going, but once you get into them, they feel incredible sometimes. You know that feeling?
Yep.
Like you get into it, like I was into it about 8 miles or something like that, and I'm not kidding you, dude. I started tearing up.
Oh.
Have you ever had that happen to you?
Yeah. I think we've talked about it before.
Yeah. I mean, I was just overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed, huh?
I know, it was unbelievable with this feeling of gratitude. Like, to get that, not that the 8 miles is that far, but for a lot of people it is.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? It just started hitting me, like, I felt really good around 8 miles, or 9 miles or whatever. And just to be, the feeling I had of being able to do that just blew me. I'm starting to get a little choked up right now.
I can tell, man. Do we need to pause and take a minute?
It was like, yeah, can we just take a break? I'm going to walk around the neighborhood.
Take a break and
no, I just wanted to point that out because it's sort of like we talk about the real why and everything like that. But sometimes it was just so refreshing to remember how great it is just to be able to do this sport. And just be able to run like that and be the ability to do this is just, it really sunk in, a couple of times yesterday. I was just like, I don't know what is going on here. I had to kind of stop and get a hold of myself.
Well, it's a good thing it was raining outside.
I know. People would have been like,
you were
what's
like
wrong with
listening
that guy?
to like a Lifetime movie on tape or something on your iPod. No, but that's so important. I think for a lot. I mean, I've been there. I remember vividly a run I did in Kansas City when we lived there. So it's been a little over 2 years. But and I headed out. It was early morning. It was like a really long run, and I headed out. It was cool. I can tell you that they only happen when the weather's nice. They sure as hell don't happen when it's like 110. You're not going to find me crying about that. There's no gratitude in my 110 degree heat runs. But it was like a real cool morning. You could see your breath and the sun was coming up. And I remember thinking like, man, like how good is it? How good is this? And I try to get that way a lot. Like I remember like just, I think Friday night, Allie and I went out to eat with Hayden, and we were talking about something, and like this family sitting next to us. Anyway, we just got talking about how lucky we are and how we forget. I think everybody forgets. I think it's human nature, to forget how great we have it, and how lucky we are, and how like, our complaints are basically nothing compared to. Because I do believe this, and I'm sure people argue with this over the moon, but how much geography plays into your life. and like where you were born, and it could have been a different country and the village or a different state or a different county. I mean, sometimes I find myself doing that, like on the way to races, get off the interstate, and I'm like, man, like, what do people even do here? And I don't like say it like a negative. I'm just like, can't imagine living here, because you're not born there, so you don't know. But I think that like that's a lot of times too, like why, I think why it gets on my nerves to see people who complain all the time. And I'm like, dude, really? Like, we have it pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. Like, we choose to do this, and we get to do this, and there's so many people out there who A, can't, or B, aren't in a place physically to where they have the confidence to do it. And I think it's a great place to be, and it is a great place to be too as you're going into some of these races where if they're going to take a long time, and you gotta go to, in order to get out of a dark place, you got to find some kind of a light. And I think everybody goes into these dark places. Not every race, but a lot of races, you go into these dark places with negative thoughts or negative self-talk, and you got to find some kind of light. And if you don't have a perspective to where you ever allow any light, or you don't have any gratitude, you rarely ever, understand how grateful you should be, then good luck, because you're just going to keep beating yourself up like you always do. And so no, I think everybody gets to that point. I know that I work with many athletes that they won't say that they teared up, but they'll be like, man, that was one of those runs where it just like felt incredible. Mm-hmm. But so much of incredible and feeling is also thinking, like how, like, I think sometimes too, like when we have like these big group rides and stuff, like head on the trace, and it's like, man, like how good is this? How good is this life? Like, and just the mentality of being able to do it with friends and that want to push themselves too, like, and how different. And how, I mean, I feel incredibly lucky too that I have like friends and athletes that I get to work with, and you and other people that like, that's my choice of happiness now. Like, which I'm sure, and rightfully so, seems completely idiotic and just ridiculous to other people. Mm-hmm. They're like, wait a minute, you wanted to go out with friends and ride hard for like 5 hours in the heat, and that was your idea of getting up early to go to have a good time on a Saturday. Yeah, that's pretty much it. But I mean, heck, like, can you think of anything?
Well, you know what I think about a lot? Like, I think, I've written posts before about, you talk about triathlon, the transition area and transition in triathlon, and I always think about how many transitions we have to deal with in life. And a lot of times when people get into triathlon, they are sort of making a transition of sorts. I mean, they make a decision to get healthier, lose weight, whatever the case may be, and you're making a transition. And while that transition is going on, you have that old life always tugging at you, that stuff that you're familiar with and comfortable with, even though it might not be the best way to live. It's always sort of tugging at you, and that's the conflict a lot of times you face. And I think sometimes you get more clarity on breaking through that and releasing it and letting go, and those are the moments where you can really embrace that gratitude, kind of like what I was talking about with my run. So when I think about, like, one of our athletes, Ross Kaffenberger, he did Wisconsin last year, and one of the things he said to us was that that second loop we always talk about on the run is just incredibly painful, and he knew it was painful, and he felt the pain, but he kept reciting, and through his mind he just kept thinking about all the things he was grateful for and kept smiling, and he said that he really felt like that was the key to his race. Mm-hmm. And I guess that, ultimately, when we kind of joke around about the beast mode thing, that's sort of what we're talking about, is it really comes down to, why not be grateful and have fun and release, your angst and all that stuff, because you can't race that kind of long day with that sort of like wanting to crush everything kind of mentality. That's sort of the irony of crushing iron sometimes. But I just think that, when you're out there, I was talking about this on one of those YouTube things about how the more I swim, the more I keep trying to get into my mind that I'm a swimmer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the mentality of that, like, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, I can't, I'm a bad swimmer, I'm bad. And if you repeat that enough, you're going to believe it. But I'm really trying to trick my brain and like fake it till I make it kind of thing, where I'm like, when I'm in the water, I have that in my mind that I'm a swimmer,
right?
And it really does sort of change your mindset, and it makes it more enjoyable. Like if you feel like you're always doing something that you're not, that's kind of a lie in a way.
Yeah.
So, I've always kind of felt that way on the bike, and I've been doing the same thing, trying to do the same thing with the run. All of it, it's like just believe that you may not be the fastest in the world, but just you're a lot faster than most people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So why not let that positive mindset take over while you're in these certain events? And I think that those kind of things help you flow. I think that, you enjoy it more, and it's not always such a battle.
Yep.
And I think that might lead us into, the post I was thinking that you made yesterday was the one about Tiger Woods. And
yep.
When you texted me and said that was great to see Tiger win today, I was kind of like, whatever. I don't, like I didn't see it, and like I told you, I was at the store buying Epsom salts for a
showing his age. Showing his age.
Us old men, we like to get in the bathtub after a nice long run and soak in the magnesium. But no, I thought that. In fact, it reminded me of this book I'm reading now, and I think you actually might like it. It's called "The Obstacle Is the Way" by Ryan Holiday.
Yeah. Dude, you better finish it, because I need it back, or I need to go buy another one, because it's like
you want to. You've given
I don't want
it
back,
like
man.
8 years
I don't want
ago.
it back, man. But dude, it is. I'm telling you, man. It is. It's. I guess technically a book, but I 100% totally believe it's like a life manual. Like
I know you do. You like it, yeah. I'm serious. I was reading it again last night.
How far into it are you?
Well, like it's a manual. You just kind of jump around.
Oh, I gotcha. Well, if you want the like really good stuff, then
about halfway through.
Okay, well, just read the stuff I have underlined and highlighted.
I did.
Be in good shape.
It was something like don't sleep because you get soft.
That's right.
I was like, shut book now. No, but it's it was in the action phase, I think. Anyway, so I think that, and is that what you were kind of thinking about talking about?
Yeah, we can go that route for sure.
Because, I liked what you said about, maybe you can talk about why him actually winning a tournament again was touched you or moved you or whatever.
Yeah, it didn't really. Yeah, I guess it did kind of touch me. And like, listen, I'm not a huge golf fan. I rarely ever watch it. I think I think a lot of times it's boring. And I'm not even like a gigantic Tiger Woods fan. Like, yeah, I know, we all know he cheated on his wife. He did horrible things. Got it done. He's made plenty of mistakes, and unless you're perfect, stop throwing stones. That's kind of my thing. Like, but like I feel like everybody for like the last 6 or 7 years has basically wanted him to like die and like fall off the face of the earth and quit golf and never be around ever again. And because he made these mistakes, he should never ever have an opportunity to do this, or he should fall away or whatever. And yeah, do I think he's like the greatest person on the planet? No, far stretch. But I gotta admit, like when I pulled it up and I was flipping between that and like a football game, and every time I was like, you know what? I hope he wins. And because the dude just won't go away. And you got to think like, are a lot of his, we'll call them wounds, like mistakes, like, are a lot of his wounds like self-inflicted? 100%. But he just won't go away. Like, he just keeps showing up everybody's written him off. He's never going to succeed. He's 3 back surgery in 2014, 2016, 2017, changing his caddy, changing this, changing that. And basically, like, why doesn't he just, like, retire? He's never going to be the same. He'll never win another major. And the dude just keeps going. He gets back up. He keeps working out. He has a back surgery, which, I mean, I've heard anything back-related is absolutely awful. But to go through that many surgeries and just to see him show up yesterday, I think you could tell he's, from me, what it looks like on the outside, it looks like he's grown a little bit from obviously those mistakes, hopefully. But I do really like a guy, I get from a sports mentality side. I really like a guy that just won't go away. Like, just finds a way to keep showing up. Might get last, might get third, might get last again, might not make a cut, and the whole world's talking about how I can't, make the cut to show up on Saturday. And then he gets to walk up on the Players' Championship yesterday, and I think he won by like 2 strokes. And if you haven't watched the scene, it was like it was insane for golf. Just how many people were following him, and it was I posted to our closed active athlete group that I'm fortunate enough to work with a lot of athletes that are like this, is that they just won't go away. Like, just like they're annoyingly, they're like really awesome athletic gnats. They just won't go away. You just can't get rid of them. They can have something come up in life. They can have something come up, like whether it's personal, professional, getting injured, all these setbacks, but they just keep coming. And I really, really, like, that's an attribute I look for as a friend and as a person and as a coach too. Like, I love athletes who just keep showing up. Like, they just won't go away, and they won't give up. Like, I had an athlete yesterday who raced, and I thought raced well, only to find out that she had had a bike wreck on the bike. Sent me pictures of her legs, and I was already impressed with her bike split. And I was just like, how did you even, like, how did you just, like, they just keep coming. And that's what you got to love that about an athlete and about just a person. And I think that's also something that this sport can teach people who may not be in that mode already, is just that perseverance and persistence to, like, it might not be the perfect day today, but it doesn't mean I won't have one. And I'm just going to keep coming until I get it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a huge Tiger Woods fan either, necessarily. I mean, it is what it is. And I agree with you. It's like, it's just very difficult for me to, I guess, people we're just human, man. I mean, he made a lot of mistakes. I get it. I don't understand the, like, complete idolization of the guy necessarily, because there's probably a lot of golfers that just sit around and drink beer every weekend and golf, and which I used to do, and I have nothing against it. I'm just saying, I just feel like, try to be more like him in the golf arena. If you're gonna golf, why not go after it? And it's just, I think it's important to be able to kind of forgive people, like you said. I mean, I don't know how, it's just, he's a celebrity, so how can he even really, make a judgment of everything? I mean, I know a lot of people who have done similar things, and I've done a lot of, things I'm not proud of, and it's just harsh, man, when people continue to like brand somebody for their life, no matter what, after they've done something, and, especially if they're going the wrong way. I listened to a podcast the other night about some guy who was on death row for 20 years, and he got found innocent, and his whole thing is,
God, no kidding.
Yeah, I mean,
is this the guy that was drawing golf courses?
Is this for real?
There was a guy that Golf Digest did like a piece on. He was in prison for like 29 years, and he would like hand draw these I guess drawings or whatever of golf courses, and Golf Digest did a piece on him. And then like the group that takes on like people who they think are wrong convicted, they dug into his case because Golf digested this piece about him, and they released him a couple months later because they found out he didn't do it, and he had been in prison for 30 years.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, those are the things, man. It's like, yeah, but this guy, he was, very angry. Obviously, he was young. I mean, I think he was 17 when they gave him life on death row or something like that. And he couldn't speak very well, and he couldn't read, and he decided at some point he was just going to fight back by being nice and changing himself into a loving person, and just help people. And like, he spent his whole time in the library and was reading. He learned about all these laws, and he was just helping other inmates and things like that with writing letters and whatever the case may be. But so here's this guy that was just treated like an animal and beaten and like abused the whole time he was in there, and he never did it. And not only, sometimes I just, in the headliney world that we live in today, it gets, like something could come out and the headline is written in a crafty way, and all of a sudden that's all you read, and then that's your judgment of that person forever. You don't know the story. And that's what scares me, is that, people can forever be in that position. But I suppose it's, but like you're saying, is like, how did he handle it? He didn't just fade away. He just kept working at his game, and hopefully he's working on his, personal self and becoming truly a better person. I mean, it's impossible, to know what he even goes through as just because he's been thrust into that situation. Like, just because you're not nice to somebody on the street, you're an asshole. Well,
yeah, and I thought it was interesting. Like, he quoted he was interviewing at the end, I think, and I think because that's the thing. Everybody gets exploited for their it's like the news cycle. They never talk about anything good. Mm-hmm. It's always horrible things. And I thought it was interesting. Like, at the end, there were a couple, I think 3 or 4 other professional golfers in street clothes that were done for the day that hung around to talk to him when he was over. And he had mentioned that they know what I've been going through, and I don't think he said it in like a, hey, you should show me pity. I think it was more of a, at least to me, and this is what I choose to believe, is that it was more of a, they know how hard I've been working behind the scenes to overcome my demons and my mistakes to get to where I am, and to see them there was really, really important to me. And you could tell it was like genuine on his face. And I think a lot of people, but to his will to make it happen, was that he never would have reached it if he quit. Mm-hmm. Or he was like, yeah, you're right, I don't deserve this, or I don't deserve this, because so many people in the world that they just live in this like self-loathing, self-hatred place, that they just for whatever reason think they just don't deserve anything. Mm-hmm. But you gotta keep going, and you gotta keep showing up, and you gotta keep, because you never know what's going to happen. But it's just that unwavering dedication, and that a lot of times, I would have to imagine that besides like maybe the first Masters he won, like this will probably go down as his most memorable.
Yeah.
One for a lot of reasons, but it just always, but it also goes back to mindset and perspective. Because like and I'll be totally honest, like one of the hardest, I don't want to say things that I deal with as a coach, but one of the hardest aspects of working with athletes and coaching and working on perspective, and also you got perspective, but then you have you also need to get athletes continually better and performing well. Mm-hmm. And when you get towards the end of a season, you have your last race this season, and that's how you kind of want to go into your quote unquote off season time. And you have athletes, it's human nature that you're going to hang a lot of expectations on a race, and if you don't PR, then your first thought is, I'm not getting any faster, or what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
And so you take like athletes who did Augusta yesterday when the conditions were just crazy and you didn't PR. Does that mean you didn't get faster? Well, the most difficult part of that whole piece is that for the athlete, you don't have a time on the clock that says you PR'd. So how can I even self-validate that I have gotten faster? Because my whole season my whole training cycle was built up to this one day. And don't get me wrong, like obviously as a coach, like time is important. You want to get better. You want to get better in training. You want to get faster at running. You want to get faster at cycling. You want to get faster at swimming. Like all these things, you want to get better at them, and you want to get better at them in training so you can show and put them all together. Hopefully on race day, but then sometimes on race day you can't even control all the conditions. So did you really get faster? But did you really get slower, or was it just the best you had that day to give? And I was texting back with an athlete that did Augusta yesterday, and I ended up saying to her as we kind of got through texting back and forth, and I said, sometimes you remember races more for what you overcame and went through than for what the clock says. And this athlete replied, yeah, I think that's what today was. I broke through some mental barriers for sure. I think I biked smart, and even though I blew up on the run, even though that was likely to happen. Which, I mean, I think a lot of people blew up on the run in Augusta. It was like 90 plus degrees, but it also goes back to kind of like, I feel like my best race I feel the best about my race this year. I feel the best I did at Texas. 70.3. Even though I think it was my fastest time, but it was I think the farthest down I was in the age group placing, and it wasn't the podium that I got at Chattanooga. And Allie and I talk about this not frequently, but it's come up, and she still doesn't understand it, obviously, or we wouldn't keep having this conversation. So sorry, babe. But it's like that's I just felt the least good about it because it's a great accomplishment. Sure, it's something I've wanted to do and be on. For a while, absolutely. But it was, I just didn't, I felt like Texas was the race where I put it almost all together. I hit the line feeling like I was toast. I paced it perfectly. I feel like I truly laid everything I had all out there. Was it my best result of the year? Well, I guess result is a relative term. I was like 14th or something in the age group. In Chattanooga, I was 5th. In Ohio, I think I was like 7th. But I feel like that was my favorite race of the year where I felt like I just laid it all out, and I feel the best about it. And I think it's difficult, I think, for specific individuals, depending on where your head is that like, well, what do you mean that's your best? Like, that was your worst place, or that was your worst, or you were on the podium in Chattanooga and you got a world championship slot and you turned it down. Why? That just wasn't.
Yeah, they canceled the podium ceremony. That's probably why it didn't sink in.
No, it still didn't. I still wasn't that happy with it, to be honest. I wasn't happy with. I think when you race in. I think for me, and I think a lot of people are like this, it's not what I physically can do, but it's if I feel like I also went through it mentally. And I remember at Texas, I feel like I executed almost perfectly. I think my nutrition could have been a little bit better, but I was like seeing spots the last 2 miles on the run. I mean, you saw me at the finish. I was absolutely toast. But mentally, I felt like I was always in the game. Chattanooga, I feel like I wavered a little bit mentally. And even Ohio, just the way that I approached the run, I feel like I wavered a little bit too. And so I feel the best about I guess the most complete race I felt mentally and emotionally and physically was Texas. And I feel like while I performed pretty well physically at Chattanooga, Ohio, I don't feel like I performed as well mentally and emotionally. And I think for me, how I approach it mentally and emotionally is a huge piece, because that part is so important, but it's also a part that I obviously still struggle with. And so that's why I see it that way. And that's also a really important, because I mean, I get to hear it from athletes all the time, is that, like I went to a dark place today and I couldn't get out. And while they may have performed well physically and the time says everything was great, it still eats at them. And I think I love that because I can sympathize with it, obviously, but I think I love that too just because they look at it from a total athletic and also human perspective. Like human, it's not athletic. It's a total human performance. Mm-hmm. How do I perform mentally and emotionally and physically? Because a lot of times that's the feedback that you get as a coach is, I think I had it physically, but I just don't think I mentally can go to this place to get me to where I need to go mentally or emotionally. And it's such a huge part.
For just a second, let's make an analogy like with Kona, with the best pro athletes in the world, which is coming up soon. With all the, training, knowledge, and just coaching, and just the information that's available. I mean, most of these pro athletes are, when you say for the most part, training up to these incredible levels, they're all probably in the same ballpark. And then when it comes down to Kona, it comes down to that emotional, mental thing, don't you think? In a lot of ways? A lot of it does. I mean, fitness is obviously pretty important. Yeah, but you know what I mean? I would think that, I don't know. Yeah, fitness is going to be huge. But for the most part, the top 10 finishers are probably fit-wise in the same ballpark, I would guess, especially... I could be wrong about it, but you think about what the difference is out there, and like you don't know what they're going through, like, and how those little thing. Maybe it is fitness in a sense that emotionally and mentally they have to, on certain workouts, they're getting through. They're taking things to just another level, and fighting through that stuff to get ready for that race. By the way, have you seen Starkowitz on Twitter lately? He's getting a little feisty out there.
I've heard he's getting a little feisty. Yeah.
He said, what did he say one time? He said, pick your top 3 ultra runners, and I guarantee you, I'll beat one of them on the run.
Man, yeah, it's so he's feeling himself lately.
He is. He's like, everyone racing Kona, I just want you to know I'm going to make your day miserable. So it sounds like he's either playing the psychological game or he's planning on doing something
special.
I wouldn't put it past him.
No, I wouldn't either.
But yeah, especially like, it's the weather, whatever happens that day, and that's back to what I was talking about, how the hundreds of decisions that you have to make, and not necessarily strategic decisions, but decisions whether or not you're going to flow into your next mile, or you're going to just like fight it.
Well, let me ask you, you should always ask yourself this, but even though it's hard, and it's really hard to do, especially I think for the self-coached athlete. I think we on our Steve Magnus podcast, like in the 30s or 40s or whatever, like we touch on this, and like one of the most underrated aspects of not being self-coached and having a coach is like to bounce ideas off of, but also to cope with setbacks or when you fall short together, so you can work on it as a team and not just blame yourself. Mm-hmm. And then figure out, how am I going to do this? And like, I just don't know, or maybe I should quit, or maybe I'm not going to get any faster, instead of, well, we can do this and we'll get back to square one. Or the coach, should say, we'll figure this out. We, instead of like, do you know how much like less stress and more supportive people feel like when you use the word we instead of I or you? Mm-hmm. It's a team thing. It's a relationship. But, it's when you dissect it, it's like, okay, so you did a super flat race with super perfect conditions, and it was 60 degrees outside, and you finished in 5:30. And then 12 weeks later, you trained really well. You did a hillier course, and it was 95 degrees, and your time was 5:36. Did you get slower?
No, I mean,
no. Like, but that's what is where you hang your hat for a lot of athletes. It's what does the time say? What's the last thing I did in what's the last time I had and the last thing I did? And is it going to validate and tell me I'm this specific day I'm getting faster, even though there's like so many different things to take into consideration? Is it what you always should ask yourself? Am I a fitter athlete all around, and am I a better athlete all around? Was I more prepared this time? That I executed the best of my ability? And then how did the day turn out? And then you take those lessons and you move forward. Yes, you should always be getting fitter, and you should see improvements. Yes, is the race the test? Sure, but tests are also different. Not every test is the same.
Mm-hmm.
If every test was the same, they wouldn't be tests. You would just repeat the same thing over and over again. Because once you do it once, you just memorize it, and it's no different. But the race is the test, but it's a different test every single time. It's testing you in different ways every single time. Heat, cold, hills, flat, open water, downriver stream. You name it. It's challenging you in different ways, and so it's how are you adapting to challenges? Are you becoming a better all-in athlete? And that's not here to tell you to make excuses, because you shouldn't. But it's also to help you sit back and look at the bigger picture instead of saying, everybody wants to PR every race. We got it. Everybody does. That's just like an inherent feeling in an athlete. I want to PR every single race. But it's it's how you look at the totality of your season, and are you really getting fitter, and did you get faster, or did you have a great day? Did you have a bad day? Because there's always only going to be one time, and you could do 20 races and have one PR. You're only going to have one PR. So what are the 19? And it's how you look at it. But it's tough, and it's especially tough, I think, this time of year because athletes take this one of two ways. They have a great race, and they're like, yeah, see, I got nothing to work on. I'm good. Mm-hmm. I can just take the off season off, pick up a record, and then I'll just do the exact same training cycle I did this last time, and I'll probably set another PR.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got ones that finish great, and are like, you know what, this is just, I just want to keep going. I just want to keep getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the ones that had a poor race, or a race, not a poor race, maybe it didn't live up to their expectations or their hopes. And then you have athlete A who just sits there and says, see, I can't do it. I don't really know what I'm doing. I shouldn't be doing this. I'm just going to take some time off. And then that time off of a week leads to 2 weeks, leads to a month, leads to 2 months. Next thing you know, it's March, and they're like, oh, crap, like, here I go again.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have the athlete that, let me finish up super quick, because you have the athlete that has a less than stellar race in their book, and it just leaves them hungry. They're like, I can't wait to get back to work.
Mm-hmm. Well, whether you have a good race or a bad race, and we've talked about it a lot, but the getting better for next year kind of thing starts right now, and I like to kind of leave one last thought that I was talking about in my YouTube video yesterday about the off season is a little bit like the taper, in the sense that kind of people are like, what a relief, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
and you can kind of just sort of fake your way through it or whatever, take it easy. But I was talking about taper, and I just want to put this in. We don't have to get into it, but because we've had podcasts about it, but as I get into my taper, the soft, I guess they call it soft taper now, like this week, and then the taper starts next week or whatever. But I really have made a decision to take it very seriously, in the sense of just being attentive to it and following the program that you've laid out. And because I think that in like an off-season sense, like if you work smart and keep the focus on what you're doing, I think that's what pays off. I mean, a lot of people hit that taper button, and we've talked about it. It's just sort of like, yeah, let it go and relax and recover. But it's sort of an active recovery going into the race, just like the off season is an active recovery, kind of getting you set up for the next season. And I know you've got off-season training plans that you just worked up and you put up on, I guess, Training Peaks. Well, you can find them on the website.
No, I didn't even put them up on Training Peaks. I have them done. I'm delivering them through Training Peaks. That was something I was going to definitely cover today. Is that they're not up on Training Peaks like the other ones. They are delivered. I deliver them straight to you. So if you have any questions about those or want any more in-depth feedback on what it looks like for the whole 12 weeks and 8 weeks, just email me directly at c26coach@gmail.com, and I can deliver them and apply them. I think I've already had, 11 people use them and take advantage of it. So you can do that. Just email me directly, and I'll take care of you from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm not saying get in beast mode on taper, but I'm saying stay focused.
We should get a shirt that has like a really, really small like baby cat that says "Go into be in the moment mode."
Be in the moment mode.
Yeah, and that can be our beast mode shirt.
All right.
Yep.
Once again, check out the Hurry Slowly shirts at crushingiron.com. Let's get that set up for Louisville. We will be in Chattanooga this week.
That's right. Look it up.
We'll do the podcast Thursday and then be heading out. Chattanooga will be all over town.
All over town. Yeah, we're staying at the Holiday Inn on Chestnut.
Yep. We'll
Mike's
be between there and transition.
Mike's in room 304, so come knock on his door night or day.
I've put 25 keys on reserve at the desk.
That's right. 25 keys, so come hang out.
Try Tinder beta weekend.
That's right. Yeah, come hang out. Shoot us a Facebook message if you're around. We'd love to meet and hang out with you and talk to you for a little bit and just
email. I'm crushingiron@gmail.com. Coach is c26coach@gmail.com. Drop us a line. Let us know if you're going to be around. Post on Facebook. Oh, which reminds me.
Yes.
We've hit a. We talked about it last podcast, but we've hit a little bit of a decision time with Facebook group, our close Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
And there's currently quite a few people that have asked to join, and we just want to kind of keep a handle on it, and we want to make sure that people are into what we're throwing down and like the podcast and everything like that. So if you have sent a request and we haven't let you in yet, please email us and let us know that you've been listening to the podcast, and we want to keep it going in. But we just think that like Facebook's throwing out an algorithm that just says, hey, join this group, and people are coming in and they have no idea what's going on, and we just sort of want to keep it keep it real in there.
Yeah, not beast mode is how we'd like to keep it.
Yeah. So email one of us and let us know that you've been trying to get in there and we haven't. And the way to get in easily is just to answer the question that we pose at the beginning: is what do you like about the podcast? And that, just give us your answer.
Mm-hmm.
And that can even be, I don't like it, but I'm trying.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah. Welcome to 80% of our listeners for the first 20.
Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where we're at on that.
All right. I like it, man.
Okay. crushingiron.com.
Yeah, for all your other questions, swim analysis, training plans, coaching, the blog, gear, check it out. crushingiron.com, and then we'll be back to you on Thursday, pre-Chattanooga Ironman.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to do a little course breakdown maybe or something?
Yeah, we might.
You just never know.
You never know what you're going to get with us. You never know.
We'll have a beat on the weather a little bit more at that point.
Yeah, we will. You have a beat on the weather.
As of now, it looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It's right on that dicey mid-80s kind of range right now.
Yeah, who knows? Could go 70s, could go hunch. You never know.
Please, for spectator's sake, let's keep it in the low 80s.
Seriously.
All right, man. Well, you just have a great day.
You too, man. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
See you.
have a name.